Welcome back to Hein Heart. Ready for another story? Enjoy watching. I noticed the doctor's hands were shaking. Not a little, enough that I could see it clearly. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through my test results on the screen. She looked at me, then at the screen, then back at me again. Her face turned pale. For a second, I truly thought she was about to say the word cancer. I was ready for that. I had been preparing myself for bad news for months. But I was not ready for what came next. Dr. Walsh suddenly stood up and told me to follow her. Not back to the exam room but to her private office. She closed the door behind us, pulled the blinds shut, and turned to face me. The look on her face is something I will never forget. It was fear. Doctor, afraid. She lowered her voice to almost a whisper. "You need to leave your house today," she said. "Don't tell your husband. Don't change your routine until you are safely out." Then she turned her computer screen toward me. What I saw made my blood burn. My name is Aya Carnes. I am 31 years old. I work as a senior accountant at a mid-size firm in Portland, Oregon. I have been married for 4 years to Glenn Reeves, a pharmaceutical sales representative. And for the past 5 months, I have felt like I was slowly dying. Started with exhaustion. Not normal tiredness. This was the kind of fatigue that makes you forget simple things like your own phone number. Then came the nausea. Constant low level like seasickness that never stopped. My hair began falling out in clumps. On my pillow. In the shower drain. Tangled in my brush. My mind became cloudy. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't remember conversations from the day before. I was 31 years old but I felt like I was 90. Over those 5 months I saw 3 different doctors. Each one gave a different answer. Stress, anemia, hormonal problems. One said I worked too much. Another suggested anxiety. They ran tests, found nothing clear, and sent me home with vitamins and advice to rest. I blamed turning 30. Apparently, turning 30 doesn't usually include arsenic poisoning. That part comes with a husband who is a psychopath. Glenn went with me to every appointment. He held my hand in waiting rooms. He asked doctors detailed questions. He took notes on his phone about my symptoms. The nurses loved him. One receptionist told me I was lucky to have such a caring husband. I believed her. I believed everything. Until that moment in Dr. Walsh's office. The screen showed my blood test results. Arsenic. High levels of arsenic in my blood. Not enough to kill me fast. That was the terrifying part. The amount matched long-term low-dose exposure over several months. Someone was not trying to kill me quickly. Someone was killing me slowly. Carefully. On purpose. Making it look like a mystery illness no doctor could explain. Dr. Walsh asked me questions in the same quiet voice. Who prepares your food? Who has access to your drinks? Is there anyone who might want to hurt you? And suddenly everything made sense. Glenn makes me a protein smoothie every morning. He started 5 months ago. The exact time my symptoms began. He said he was worried about my health. That I wasn't eating enough. That the smoothie would give me energy. It tasted terrible, like blended grass with fake hope. I thought that was just what healthy food tasted like. I drank it every day. Because my husband made it with love. Except it wasn't love. It was arsenic. Dr. Walsh explained her suspicion. Glenn works in pharmaceutical sales. He understands chemicals, dosages, and how the body reacts. He wouldn't need to search how to poison someone. He already knew. The amounts in my body were carefully measured. Enough to make me sick. Not enough to raise alarms. He wanted my death to look natural. A young wife wasting away from an unknown illness. A grieving husband left behind. I thought about every doctor visit. Glenn beside me, playing the role of the caring spouse. He wasn't supporting me. He was building an alibi. Dr. Walsh gave me strict instructions. Don't change your behavior. Don't stop the smoothies suddenly. Don't let him suspect anything. Call the police immediately. She even gave me her personal email, afraid Glenn might monitor our shared accounts. I left the clinic feeling like my body wasn't mine. My phone buzzed. A text from Glenn. How did the appointment go, honey? I made your favorite dinner. Lasagna. Can't wait to see you. I stared at the screen for a long time. This man. The man I married. The man I trusted with my life. He was waiting at home with a smile. And tomorrow's smoothie. Had to go home. Sit across from him. Eat his food. Kiss him goodnight. And pretend everything was normal while my husband slowly tried to end my life. I texted back. On my way. Can't wait to see you too. Then I got in my car and screamed until my throat burned. Before we continue, please hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Serious, just new supplements. He nodded like he was relieved and said he had already researched the best brands for me. Always prepared. Always caring. Always watching. I wanted to vomit. Instead, I thanked him and went to change my clothes. The smoothies were my first real problem. I couldn't suddenly stop drinking them. Glenn made them every morning and stayed until I took the first few sips. If I refused, he would know something was wrong. So I lied. I told him my new medication couldn't be mixed with protein. I said I had to wait at least 2 hours after eating before drinking it. He believed me instantly. Now he leaves the smoothie in the fridge and goes to work. Most of it ends up down the drain. I still drink small amounts, just enough so my recovery looks slow, not sudden. I tell Glenn the supplements are helping a little. He seems pleased with that, which is horrifying. He planned my slow decline, so slow improvement doesn't scare him. He's patient. He thinks he has time. Home, I became an actress. I use just enough makeup to look pale. I complain about being tired even when I'm stronger. When Glenn is home, I lie in bed pretending to nap while my mind races. He brings me tea, fixes my pillows, tells me to rest. This man deserves either an Oscar or a prison sentence. As days passed, I started seeing how long this had been planned. 2 years ago, I gave Glenn control of our finances. It was his idea. He said I worked too much and deserved peace when I came home. Let him handle the bills. Let him handle the money. Thought it was love. It was control. My friendships disappeared the same way. Glenn never told me I couldn't see anyone. He just sighed whenever I mentioned plans with my best friend, Nah. She's so negative, he'd say. I just want you around people who lift you up. He said it enough times that I stopped trying. Quietly, slowly. Death by 1,000 cuts. One evening while Glenn was at work, I searched our home office. As an accountant, I know where secrets hide. It took me only 20 minutes to find what I'd missed for 2 years. A life insurance policy. $750,000. Glenn was the only beneficiary. The policy was opened 10 months ago. 4 months before the poisoning began. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't rage. This was planning. My hands shook as I kept digging. I found transfers to a bank account I didn't know existed. $40,000 over 8 months. Hidden as business expenses. Most people would never catch this. But I've audited companies that hid millions. Glenn's plan was sloppy. Then I followed him. He said he was meeting a client for dinner, but something in his voice felt off. Too excited. I waited 10 minutes, then followed him downtown. He parked at a restaurant I'd never been to. Inside he met a woman. She was younger than me, late 20s maybe. Dark hair. Expensive jewelry Glenn never bought me. They were close. Too close. She touched his arm. He leaned in and whispered things that made her smile. But something was wrong. She didn't look happy. Even when she smiled, her body was tense. She kept checking her phone, nervous. Later I learned her name, Simone Halford. I remembered that feeling. Something didn't fit. Around the same time, Glenn's mother, Renata, started visiting almost daily. She brought soup. Sat with me while I rested. This was strange. Renata never liked me. At our wedding, she told relatives I wasn't right for her son. For 3 years she treated me like a stranger. Now she was suddenly caring. Then I overheard Glenn on the phone. "Thanks for checking on her today, Mom," he said. "I worry when I'm at work." He had turned his mother into a watcher. Renata thought she was helping her sick daughter-in-law. She didn't know she was part of surveillance. Guilt made her easy to use. Glenn was using everyone. Finally saw the pattern. Poisoned wife. Insurance money. Secret account. Tense mistress. A mother unknowingly spying. But something was still missing. Why was Simone so afraid? What else was Glenn hiding? I contacted Detective Maria Reyes through Dr. Walsh. She specialized in domestic crimes and believed me immediately. That alone felt like oxygen. We met far from my home. She explained what we needed. Proof of poison, proof Glenn was giving it to me, financial motive, and a recorded conversation. Oregon is a one-party consent state, she said. You can record him legally. My first job was the poison. I saved one smoothie instead of dumping it. Stored it in a container Na brought me. Detective Reyes sent it to a private lab. The results came back within a week. Arsenic compounds. Low doses. Consistent. Exactly matching what was in my blood. The levels in my blood work. Now I finally had proof of what was poisoning me. What I still needed was proof of who was doing it, and how. Glenn worked in pharmaceuticals, but arsenic isn't medicine. Detective Reyes had already checked his company records. Nothing suspicious. So where was he getting it? Then I remembered Simone. After following Glenn that night, I'd done some digging. Her full name was Simone Halford. According to LinkedIn, she worked at Pacific Northwest Industrial Supply. They sold chemicals for different industries, including arsenic compounds used in wood treatment and glass manufacturing. But Simone worked in accounting, not the warehouse. She didn't touch the chemicals. So how was Glenn getting arsenic through her? My father was an accountant too. He taught me everything I know. He used to say, documentation is protection. Keep records of everything. I thought he was overly cautious when I was younger. Turns out he was teaching me how to survive my own husband. Against Detective Reyes's advice, I made a dangerous decision. I needed to talk to Simone directly. I found her during lunch at a cafe, sitting alone in a corner. The moment she saw me, her expression hardened. She knew exactly who I was. Glenn must have shown her photos. Probably warned her about his unstable wife. You're the wife, she said coldly. I have nothing to say to you. I sat down anyway. I showed her the lab report proving arsenic in my blood. She laughed. Glenn told me you'd try this, she said. He said you're manipulative, unstable. So I showed her the life insurance policy. $750,000. Glenn as the only beneficiary. She hesitated just for a second, then recovered. He's just being responsible, she said. Planning for the future. He loves you. He worries about you all the time. She had been prepared. Glenn had coached her for this moment. I needed another way in. So I asked one simple question. Did Glenn ask you to get life insurance too? Her face drained of color. How did you know? She whispered. Let me guess, I said. About $500,000. He told you it was for your future together. For when you'd finally be a real couple. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. I leaned forward. Simone, I'm not a jealous wife trying to save a broken marriage. I'm Glenn's current victim. And you're his next one. That's when everything changed. Simone told me her story. She met Glenn 14 months ago at a professional conference. He was charming, attentive, everything she wanted. He said his marriage was a mistake. That I was cold and distant. That he was trapped but waiting for the right moment to leave. She believed him because she wanted to. 8 months ago, Glenn convinced her to take out a life insurance policy. $500,000. He said it was for their future. Protection for when they were finally together openly. She was 28. In love. Hearing promises about the life they'd build. She signed the papers happily. Around that same time, Glenn asked for a favor. He said he needed to order specialty products for work. His company's supplier was expensive. Simone's company had better pricing. Could she give him access to her ordering account just to save money? She gave him her login without hesitation. She never checked the orders. Never saw the deliveries. As the truth settled in, I watched it break across her face. Glenn used her account to order the arsenic that was poisoning me. If investigators traced it, it would lead to Simone, not him. She was his scapegoat. And once I was dead and he collected the $750,000, she would be next. Another tragic loss. Another payout. Another grieving husband. 2 women. 2 policies. $1.25 million total. Simone started shaking. I thought he loved me, she whispered. I gave up everything for him. I know, I said. That's what he does. He makes you feel special while he plans your funeral. She looked at me then, really looked at me. The hostility was gone. We weren't rivals. We were survivors in progress. 2 women who believed the same lie from the same man. And we were both meant to die. What do we do? She asked. That's when my old friend Nina came back into my life. She felt something was wrong and couldn't stay away. She reached out the same week I met Simone. When I told her everything, she wasn't surprised. I always thought Glenn smiled like he practiced in the mirror, Na said. Too perfect. Like a shark in a polo shirt. I asked why she never warned me. She shrugged. Telling someone in love that their partner is creepy is like telling a cat not to knock things off a table. They have to learn on their own. Fair point. Simone agreed to help Detective Reyes. She gave her company records showing orders she never placed. Arsenic compounds shipped to a P.O. box Glenn rented under a fake name. He thought he was careful. He wasn't careful enough. Now we had the poison source. The financial motive. 2 witnesses willing to testify. But detective. Everything. Oregon's one-party consent law meant every word Glenn said to Simone could be used in court. The recordings were terrifying because of how normal they sounded. Glenn talked about their future together. He mentioned the money he had been setting aside. He spoke about how they would start fresh once my situation resolved itself. One night he said calmly, once Aya's health declines a bit more, we can stop hiding. It's tragic, really. But she won't suffer much longer. He sounded gentle, caring, like a man talking about bad weather or an unavoidable accident. Not like someone actively poisoning his wife every morning. At home I gave the performance of my life. I moved slower than necessary. I looked weaker than I felt. I smiled softly at Glenn's constant attention. Thank you for taking care of me, I told him one night. I don't know what I'd do without you. The words tasted like poison, but I said them anyway. He kissed my forehead and told me to rest. The hardest part was Renata. Glenn's mother kept coming every day. Oh, concern. Quiet guilt. She sat beside me while I pretended to sleep, sometimes holding my hand. I could feel how badly she wanted to make up for the years she'd been cold to me. She didn't know she had nothing to apologize for. Her son was the problem. I wanted to tell her the truth. Part of me felt she deserved to know. But Detective Reyes warned me not to. Renata loved Glenn without question. If she knew, she might confront him, warn him, or give him time to destroy evidence. So I let her keep believing the lie. Just a little longer. If this story has you on edge, please take a moment to hit the like button. Your support truly means everything. Now let's finish this. Detective Reyes needed one final piece of evidence. Something directly from Glenn. Not through Simone. She asked if I was willing to wear a wire. The goal wasn't a confession. Glenn was too smart for that. The goal was to show his awareness of the insurance policy and his comfort discussing my possible death. I said yes immediately. Na came over that morning. She helped place the tiny recording device and reminded me to stay calm. Don't touch it. Don't act strange. Be natural. I decided to think about tax returns. Very calming. That evening, Glenn came home to find me looking especially weak. Pale makeup. Slouched posture. I'd outdone myself. I told him I'd been thinking about the future. Glenn, I said softly, if something happens to me, I want to know you'll be okay. His face shifted into perfect concern. Don't talk like that, honey. You're going to get better. But just in case, I pressed. The insurance, our savings. I want you to have everything. He held my hand. Squeezed gently. Let's not think about dark things, he said. But he didn't deny it. He didn't say he couldn't imagine life without me. I mentioned the policy directly. I'm glad we have that protection, I said. $750,000. Enough for you to start over. Build a new life. He nodded slowly. I'll take care of everything, he said. I always do. Not a confession. But not innocence either. Later that night I pretended to sleep. Glenn stepped into the hallway and made a phone call. He didn't know the wire was still recording. He called Simone. She's getting worse, he said, voice low and excited. Probably a few weeks at most. Then we're finally free. He sounded relieved. Happy. Like someone talking about an upcoming vacation. That's when something inside me snapped. Not into pain but into clarity. Cold. Solid. Unbreakable. This man never loved me. I wasn't his wife. I was a plan. The wedding. The vows. 4 years of marriage. All of it was preparation for a payout. Detective Reyes called the next morning. The arrest warrant was signed. Glenn Reeves would be taken into custody the following day. 8 weeks of investigation. 14 months of manipulation. 4 years of a marriage that was never real. One more night. One more dinner. One more smoothie I wouldn't drink. One more kiss from a man counting down my death. I barely made it through. The morning of the arrest began like any other. I woke first. Made coffee. Moved quietly through the kitchen. Glenn came downstairs around 7. Showered. Dressed for work. Smelled like the cologne I once loved. He kissed me goodbye. Rest today, honey, he said. I'll bring home dinner. Smiled. Have a good day. He walked out. 20 minutes later he walked back in. Detective Reyes stood beside him. 2 uniformed officers behind her. No shouting. No scene. No drama. Just a badge. A warrant. And my husband's face shifting from confusion, to calculation, to something empty. Glenn Reeves, Detective Reyes said, you are under arrest for attempted first-degree murder and insurance fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Glenn looked at me. I stood in the kitchen doorway, still holding my coffee. For the first time in 4 years I saw his real face. No warmth. The performance for your lawyer. Something flickered in Glenn's eyes for just a moment. Then it disappeared. I want my attorney, he said. That's your right, Detective Reyes replied. They handcuffed him right there in our living room. Read him his rights. Walked him to the unmarked car waiting in the driveway. He didn't look back at me. Not once. I stood at the window and watched him drive away. The man I had married. The man I had trusted. The man who had held me while I cried about my mysterious illness. Gone down our quiet suburban street in the back of a police car. I thought I would feel triumph. Victory. Something powerful and satisfying. Instead I just felt tired. And free. At the station, Glenn's expensive lawyer arrived within the hour. Glenn immediately activated his backup plan. Blame Simone, he said. She must have poisoned my wife. He told detectives Simone was obsessed with me. She wanted me out of the way. He had no idea what she was doing. It was clever. Simone had access to chemicals. Simone had motive. She wanted Glenn for herself. If Glenn hadn't been so confident in his own cleverness, it might have worked. But he didn't know Simone had been helping police for 3 weeks. He didn't know about the recordings of him talking about my death with excitement. He didn't know about the security footage of him picking up arsenic shipments from the P.O. box he thought was untraceable. Detective Reyes played the recordings. His own voice saying I only had a few weeks left. His own voice calm, eager, saying they would finally be free. That's when Glenn's face changed. That's when he knew. He tried to blame Simone. Told Na later. She laughed bitterly. Guess he didn't get the memo. His backup plan had switched sides. Turns out women talk to each other. Revolutionary concept. The evidence was overwhelming. Arsenic in the smoothies, confirmed by lab tests. Orders placed through Simone's account using credentials only Glenn had. Security footage of him collecting the shipments. Life insurance taken out 4 months before the poisoning started. $40,000 hidden in a secret account. Recorded conversations proving he knew and planned my death. His own searches on our shared computer for chronic arsenic symptoms, insurance payouts, and undetectable poisons. Criminal mastermind, everyone. Glenn's lawyer advised him to consider a plea deal. There was no defense. The trial would be a formality. Simone's case resolved more quickly. The district attorney recognized she had been manipulated. She didn't know Glenn was ordering poison through her account. She didn't know she was next. She cooperated fully. Provided crucial testimony. Helped build the case that put Glenn away. The DA offered a deal. Probation, mandatory counseling, no jail time. Simone accepted. She had lost her job when the news broke. Lost her reputation. Lost the future she imagined. But she kept her freedom. She sent me a short message through Detective Reyes. "Thank you for telling me the truth when you didn't have to." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. We weren't friends, probably never would be. But we understood each other in a way nobody else could. Telling Renata was harder than I thought. Detective Reyes officially informed her, but I called her afterward. Maybe I owed her that much. Maybe I needed her to hear it from me. At first she couldn't believe it. Kept saying there must be a mistake. Glenn would never. This couldn't be real. Then she went quiet. Then she cried. "I was in your house," she said through tears. "I watched you suffer. I brought you soup while you were being poisoned, by my own son." I didn't know what to say. Neither did she. Renata wasn't charged. She genuinely didn't know. She was just another person Glenn used. Her love. Her guilt. Her desire to make up for the past. All weaponized against me without her knowledge. We were both women who loved a man who never existed. I told her. She hung up. I haven't heard from her since. I don't blame her. Glenn refused a plea deal at first. His ego wouldn't let him admit defeat. But after his lawyer reviewed the full evidence, reality set in. There was no winning. Only limiting the damage. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 2 days, walking the jury through 5 months of poisoning, 4 years of manipulation, and the moment a doctor's trembling hands changed everything. I looked at Glenn across the courtroom. Really looked. Searching for any trace of the man I had married. He wasn't there. Maybe he never had been. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, Glenn's face was a mask. No fear. No remorse. No emotion. Guilty of attempted first-degree murder. Guilty of insurance fraud. Guilty of domestic abuse. The judge sentenced him to 15 years in state prison. He would be eligible for parole after 10 years. He'd be 46 at the earliest when facing a parole board. His pharmaceutical license was permanently revoked. Late. I filed for divorce while Glenn awaited trial. I got everything he hadn't already stolen. I sold the house immediately. Every room held memories that were really lies. I couldn't sleep there anymore. I moved to Seattle. New city. New job. New apartment with big windows and a kitchen where I make my own breakfast every morning. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit. Simple things I control completely. There's something powerful about feeding yourself, about trusting what goes into your own body. I'll never take that for granted again. Na and I have dinner every Thursday. She never once said, "I told you so," even though she could have. Real friends don't need to say it. They just show up over and over. Glenn writes to me from prison sometimes. I recognize his handwriting on the envelopes. The neat, careful script I once found so attractive. I haven't opened a single letter. I don't know if he's apologizing, explaining, manipulating, or threatening. I don't care. Some chapters close permanently. Rereading them only brings pain. I used to wonder if I'd missed warning signs, if I should have known sooner, if I was stupid for trusting him. I've made peace with that. Glenn was good at what he did. He'd practiced his whole life. I was targeted by a predator who knew exactly how to become whatever his victim needed. My only mistake was believing love could look like control, that devotion could feel like suffocation. I know better now. I survived because I'm stubborn, and I know how to read fine print. My father taught me, documentation is protection. He was right. Sometimes the most dangerous person in your life shares your bed. But sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one everyone underestimated. Glenn underestimated me. That was his real mistake. These days, I wake up early and drink my coffee by the window, watching Seattle come to life below. I go to work and come home to an empty apartment that feels full of possibility instead of empty of love. I call Na when I'm lonely. I see a therapist twice a month. I'm learning to trust myself again. Last week, someone asked if I'd ever get married again. I said I didn't know. Maybe someday. Maybe not. The future is open now in a way it hasn't been since I was 25. And I'm in no rush to fill it with anything but peace. The most dangerous person in the room is often the one who knows how to read the fine print. Remember that. Thank you so much for watching. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now. You won't want to miss the best part. You will love it. See you in the next story.